Hello friends, it's me, and today I have a question for you. What does Mr. Beast, Logan Paul, KSI, what do they have in common? Let's check out Food Theory, the hidden dangers of Lunchables from the food theorist. Together, let's go. Let's start.
Lunchables. There was a time when whipping out one of these bad boys made you the coolest kid at the lunch table. But lately, for no reason in particular, people have started to question whether all these lunch kits are really good for kids to eat. And not just because of questionable strawberry banana drink choices. More and more of these kits are popping up for kids and claim that they're better alternatives. But while everyone has been arguing about whether X or Y meal kit is healthier, everyone has missed what's really going on here. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Food Theory, the show with a surprising twist that's hard to resist. And today,
hello Internet! Welcome to Food Theory. Okay, quick disclaimer, I live in Singapore. I grew up in Singapore. I was born in Singapore. I received Singapore education. I served 2 years military service in Singapore. I have not been to USA. I have not been to the United States of America. So, Lunchable, I do not have experience. I'm sorry. So sorry.
we're talking about all things Lunchables. The undisputed GOAT of lunchtime needs no introduction. It's been churning out deli meats and pizza circles since the late 80s. My personal favorite, the pancake Lunchables. Little discs of pancakes with syrup and bacon bits. Even though every time I bring them up, no one seems to remember them. Leave a comment down below if you do so that I feel less
Cause no one's Asian enough. Oh.
alone. But fun fact, Lunchables was originally created as a way for its parent company, Oscar Mayer, to sell more bologna and other deli meats. But it also had the benefit of being a super convenient lunch for busy parents to pack. Create a delicious product and throw in some rad commercials, and it's no wonder that Lunchables eventually grew to become the sought-after lunchtime treat it is today. But not everyone is all aboard the Lunchables train. In recent months, people have started to question...
all aboard!
whether Lunchables and all these pre-made meal kits that have popped up are all that good for kids on a daily basis. Regardless, they're still so popular that Mr. Beast, KSI, and Logan Paul have released their own meal lunch kit, Lunchly, to just a wee bit of controversy. But today, we're not going to wade into that Lunchables versus Lunchly debate. A lot of people that are well qualified and dang near as handsome as I am have already done a great job comparing and contrasting the two. Instead, I want to take a big step back because whether it's Lunchables, Lunchly, or any other pre-made meal kit, people online have brought up some legitimate concerns about the long-term health value these kinds of products have for children. But is this the internet?
Alright, I'm going to say this out front. If Lunchly came out before the whole Mr. Beast, Logan Paul, KSI thing, this year, 2024, maybe they came out back in 2021, 2022, 2-3 years ago, it might have been a very good product. It will have sold more because the Mr. Beast controversy, which have been mostly proven to be false, the Mr. Beast controversy have not surfaced yet. And then Logan Paul and KSI,
being over paranoid? Or is there something in these meals that should have us running for the hills? Get your sauce squeezers and cracker stackers ready, loyal theorists, as we find out whether Lunchables are more Funchables or lunch awful for your health. A good place to start looking when trying to figure out if a piece of food is good for you or not is obviously the nutrition facts label. And the first place that most of us tend to gravitate toward on that label is the calorie count. I mean, they literally put the thing in like 200-point font, so yeah, of course we're gonna look there first. And taking a look at a pack of Lunchables turkey and cheddar cracker stackers, you'll see that they contain 260 calories per package. Similarly, Lunchly's turkey stackums are just 230 calories per package, and that includes a mini bottle of Prime and a Feastables bar. Meanwhile, a third brand of these cracker kits, Armor Brand's Lunch Makers Cracker Crunchers, man, these names are too long, are just 210 calories, including the mini Butterfinger. And the low-caloric nature isn't limited to just the crackers. The iconic pizza varieties of these products are also between 220 and 360 calories per full package. So right off the bat, it's clear that Lunchables and all these other meal kits are super low in calories. Too low, in fact. Look, it's no secret that obesity rates globally, but especially in the United States, are climbing. And calories are certainly a big contributor to that problem. But, and this may surprise you, these meals actually swing too far in the other direction, being too few in calories to really be considered a full meal. Remember, kids aren't just tiny adults. Their bodies are growing and need these calories and nutrients to not just maintain themselves, but to grow as well. According to the American Heart Association, school-aged children should be eating between 1,200 and 2,200 calories per day, depending on their age and sex. According to the National School Lunch Program, or the NSLP, to be considered a meal, a school lunch is supposed to be between 550 and 850 calories. The only Lunchables that even come close to that caloric threshold are the uploaded sub-meal, the nachos, and the new grilled cheese, which is the only one that actually meets the bare minimum threshold for a kid in K5. But the point remains the same. For a kid in, say, the 6th grade to meet the minimum caloric requirement for a lunch, they'd have to eat around 2.3 times the amount of Cracker Stackers, which, while that sounds delicious, also comes with 2.3 times the other macros. Speaking of which, calories aren't the only thing that determines whether a food may be healthy though, because while the calorie count in a Lunchable may be low, that's not true of everything in there. Starting with the good, a Lunchable's turkey and cheddar cracker stacker does come with a fairly impressive 13 grams of protein in that calorically small package. For context, a child between the ages of 9 and 13 should be eating around 34 grams of protein per day, while teenagers in the awkward thrusts of puberty should be eating around 46 to 52 grams. That means that a Lunchable's cracker stacker, despite its pitiful calorie count, does provide around a quarter of the protein an average growing teenager needs in a given day. And in case you're wondering, Lunchly's equivalent comes in at a lower 11 grams of protein. But what they lack in protein, they make up for in more things. Wow.
Ooh! Alright! Bro nearly went there.
What'd you think I was gonna say? But turning back to packaging and other macronutrients, let's look at the fats found in a Lunchable. Despite fat's bad reputation, our bodies do need some fat in order to carry out our daily functions. Fat is used as an energy source, just like sugar. And we also need fats in our diets to absorb some of our fat-soluble vitamins, like vitamins K, A, D, and E. But obviously, too much fat in your diet can increase your risk of a whole smorgasbord of problems, including obesity, coronary heart disease, and even some cancers. And taking another look at both Lunchables and Lunchly, fat is very much on the menu. The nachos, crackers, and pizza for both brands contain between 12 and 21 grams of fat, with between a third to a whole half of that being saturated fat. You may remember from our macadamia nuts episode that I briefly took residence in Matt's pantry, but you may also remember that we spoke quite a bit about all the different types of fats. TLDW, saturated fats, and trans fats are considered the bad type that you should avoid. The saturated and saturated fats comes from them containing more hydrogens than an unsaturated fat. In other words, they are saturated with them. But the reason that saturated fats are so problematic is because they increase the LDL, or bad cholesterol, in your blood, and therefore increase your risk of heart disease. And looking at the nutrition facts for so many of these meal kits, while having 7 grams of saturated fat doesn't sound like a lot, that's a full third of what the average adult should be having in a given day. Kids need it even less. Again, looking at the NSLP standards, lunches for children are not allowed to have more than 10% of the total calories come from saturated fat. So it would seem that kids like Lunchables and Lunchly are saturated with hydrogen, saturated with fat, and saturated with an increased risk of developing heart disease. And
No. There's some exception to it. I was reading this news about a 10-year-old boy. He has a father that is dying. A 10-year-old boy and his father is dying. He can donate his organs, I don't know which part of his organs, to his father, but he's only 10 years old. He's way too underweight, and the surgery cannot proceed unless he hit a threshold of minimum, I think 40 kg around there. So you will require a 10 years old to reach 40 kg. Not a 10 years old has not even reached puberty yet. So the growth spurt have not occurred, and you have to eat until 40 kg. So Bobian, in that particular situation, he has to purposefully eat a lot more of that quote-unquote unhealthy fats, the trans fat and the saturated fat. Yeah, because Bobian, he has to grow fatter in order for the surgeons, the doctors, the nurses to go ahead with the procedure of minimum 40 kg. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I remember the news incorrectly. Alright, but a child trying to save his father he has to is for most cases it doesn't occur, but for the small minute 0.01% chance of it happening, well, yeah, let's have some compassion for them.
Speaking of heart disease, the nutrient we find in these meal kits that's the biggest red flag when it comes to the heart health is, of course, sodium. And don't get me wrong, I love salt. We all love salt. It can both preserve our food and make it taste even better. Want my potentially lukewarm...
I saw this from Guga's food channel. Apparently, in Italy,
take, it is the second most important culinary discovery in history, only behind fire. But all of that delicious salt comes with a catch. Eating too much sodium has been linked to increased blood pressure and an elevated risk of stroke and heart disease. And you may be thinking, heart disease, smart disease, what's the big deal about that? Well, what if I told you that according to the CDC, heart disease is the #1 leading cause of death in Americans each year? More than cancer, more than strokes, more than listening to Baby Shark for 10 hours on a row on YouTube. A full 700,000 Americans die of heart disease every year, and our appetite for salt and fat, unfortunately, plays a big role in that. So with all that...
I'm going to give you at the other side of the coin. Most people who died are not kids. Most people who died because of, are not kids. They are adults. So, different target group for Lunchables. Yeah, sometimes numbers can be manipulated to twist the narrative a bit. Although having said that, let's be honest, most populations are 18 years old and above, 21 years old and above. Most of humankind is 18 years old and above, 21 years old and above. Most of us are, so yeah, me too. So I'm older than 18 years old, I'm older than 21 years old.
Doom and gloom, how do our meal kits do? Not great. The Lunchables Turkey and Cheddar Cracker Stackers contains a gargantuan 690 milligrams of sodium. Although, strangely enough, if you buy the version with Capri Sun and a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, it's less, at 560 milligrams, for some reason. I honestly have no idea why. It seems like it's the same thing, but with a drink and dessert added. We'll go with magic for now. But either way, that's still super high, especially for children. 690 milligrams is over half of what's adequate for a child in a day. And while it seems like a no-brainer for companies like Oscar Mayer to remove as much of that excess sodium as possible, it's not that simple. Not only does that sodium make it taste better, something a food company obviously cares about, but that salt also helps the meat and cheese last longer in transport and on store shelves. Now, you might have seen that there's been pictures and videos circulating online that a certain other meal kit brand that will remain nameless had issues with moldy cheese on their pizza. At first,
yeah, nameless brands. Definitely.
I thought this might be as a result of having less sodium than Lunchables and thus leading to them not lasting quite as long. But comparing the two big brands, that other brand has higher levels of sodium than the normal pizza. Of course, at the time of writing this, we don't know what caused this moldy cheese epidemic or even if it's a really widespread issue. But we can say that a lack of sodium in the cheese is definitely not the reason. So yeah, regardless of which meal kit you pick up, you're also going to be picking up a big spoonful of salt to go with it. And since that salt leads to an increased risk of cardiovascular disease, it might not be a great idea to send kids to school with one of these every...
I like it. Take it with a grain of salt. Take it with a big spoonful of salt. You're using both it metaphorically and literally. Oh no. I shouldn't be doing this. I should not be doing that. I should be doing this. A clap and a half.
Day. But that doesn't matter because what if I told you that children are able to buy Lunchables at schools now? Last year, Oscar Mayer and its parent company Kraft Heinz announced that they were rolling out a modified version of their classic Cracker Stacker and Pizza Lunchables as part of the NSLP. Now, if you've watched this episode so far and are thinking there's no way that Lunchables can meet those nutritional guidelines, you'd be right. But that didn't stop Lunchables. Lunchables ended up creating slightly modified versions of their classic Cracker Stackers and Pizza that allowed it to slide just just under those NSLP standards. They upped the protein a bit and used whole grain in the crackers in order to be served alongside pizza squares as part of a balanced school lunch. As a result of this modification, both the pizza and crackers count as meat or meat equivalent, a whole grain, and the sauce in the pizza seems to count as a red/orange vegetable. Go figure.
Oh, fun fact! Okay, so my primary school, right? Primary 4, primary 5, primary 6, same 3 years. Primary 4, primary 5, primary 6, when I was 10, 11, and 12 years old. Back then, it was like a few decades ago, I purchased most of my meals that I purchased from a canteen during recess and after school was 5毛钱炒饭, 50 cents fried rice. After I graduated, I found out that they upped the price to 80 cents, $1, $1.20. It's like, bro, why do you up the price after I graduate? It's like, it's because we waited for you to graduate. Okay, thank you. Oh, thank you. Because I was the only one that is consistently Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 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 consistently eating at the same store, eating the same food. Fried rice, that means the mixed rice, everything. Because it's cheap, 50 cents. It was never above $1. So, unfortunately, I became easily being bullied. Especially those girls that are mean. The girls are mean. The saying in Chinese, 最毒妇人心. The most poisonous, the most evil, the most toxic, the most venomous is a woman's heart. Those girls are just evil. Notice I'm saying that primary school, 10 years old, 11 years, 12 years old, and they are older than me because my birthday is 19 December. So I'm the youngest in the class and I'm the easiest bullied in class. So back then before my puberty I was average height. After puberty, 160, 180. See how you bully me?
And if you think that it's kind of bogus...
Okay, but having said that, I still get bullied lah. But I get bullied less because by default, I look down on them. My height difference, by default. So I hang out with the nerds, I hang out with the weaklings, I hang out with the geeks, the one that study during lunch break, the one that study during class, the one that play chess, the one that like, hey, let's go karaoke, I'm studying. Let's go watch a movie, I'm studying. Let's go, I'm studying. With my group of study friends, so we're all the nerds. Sorry.
That Lunchables can count as a vegetable, we have a whole video where we deep dive into the craziness of NSLP standards. Now, you might be thinking, okay, having Lunchables sneak into school lunch menus might be lame, but at least it's healthier than the store-bought version. Well, I wouldn't be so sure. One analysis found that while the school version did have more protein, less saturated fat, and even more fiber, it also had nearly 200 more milligrams of sodium than the store-bought version, where the levels were already concerningly high. Let's move on. I don't think my heart could take much more of this.
Your heart, literally your heart.
Jeez! So far, we've talked about how Lunchables and meal kits like it are too low in calories as well as too high in sodium and fat. What's next? You're gonna tell me that these kits also contain dangerously high levels of... Oh, come on! Yep, according to Consumer Reports, they found that Lunchables and other kits like it contained concerningly high levels of lead, the super dangerous neurotoxin, the same lead that is especially dangerous for children. In fact, lead in children is linked to damage to the brain and nervous system, slowed growth and development, as well as learning and behavior problems. Countless studies over the years have shown a strong correlation between lead exposure as a kid and the incidence of violent crimes as an adult. So, how did Lunchables and the other kids do in their lead test? Well, considering I'm talking about it now, I think you know, not good. Also, I'd note that Lunchly wasn't included in the study because the product didn't actually exist at the time. But the test found that Cracker Stackers had 74% of of the maximum allowable dose level of lead as defined by the state of California. Now, if you know anything about California, you know that they tend to be pretty strict when it comes to regulations, so being below that standard isn't too bad. But do you know what Santi's maximum allowable dose of lead is in my food? 0! Yeah! 74% is less than 100%, but I don't want 3/4 of my daily lead coming from 250 calories worth of cheese and crackers. By the way, the pizza varieties didn't fare much better, having lead levels of 73% and 69%. Nice, but not nice. And so you might be asking yourself,
Yeah, so the element, sorry, is it element? Yeah, PB, so lead. Lead. It's a neuron, it's bad for your neural, psychological, mental, you get the point.
how is it possible for all of this excess salt, fat, and even lead to get in our food supply? Well, it all comes down to how they're processed. You probably know that Lunchables don't grow on trees. Heck, they'd probably be healthier if they did. Instead, it's what we call in the biz an ultra-processed food, or UPF. Essentially, all of our food can broadly be put into 3 categories: unprocessed, processed, and ultra-processed foods. For unprocessed foods, think of something like an apple, which is more or less the
Bro went from unprocessed to processed to ultra processed, skipping the super processed parts.
product in as natural of a state as possible with little to nothing being done to it. Processed foods involve, well, processing the food in some way. This can include grinding, peeling, squeezing, or juicing to transform that product into something else. So if an apple is unprocessed, something like organic apple juice could be considered processed. Then finally, we have ultra-processed foods, which encompasses the vast majority of our packaged goods you find at the supermarket. UPS.
Alright, let me try again. Processed food? Sorry. Unprocessed food? Processed food? Ultra processed food. Sorry.
Have been heavily processed, ingredients have been added, and the original ingredients are completely unrecognizable from their quote-unquote natural state. To round out our apple analogy, an apple pie would be considered an ultra-processed food. And UPFs aren't just highly processed, they can also be highly hazardous to our health. One meta-analysis of 45 different studies of UPFs totaling around 10 million participants found a link between eating UPFs and 32 different conditions, including type 2 diabetes, sleeping disorders, and anxiety. Wait a minute, you're telling me that eating pancake Lunchables as a kid is why I'm so anxious all the time? Ugh. All joking aside, in general, UPFs, while delicious, come with, on average, higher levels of fat, sugar, sodium, and other chemicals. And sometimes these processes can also cause some unintended ingredients like lead and plastics to sneak in there as well. That's not to say that the ultra-processed foods always mean unhealthy, but
I like it, the echo version of ultra is there.
9 times out of
It just makes it funny, I'm sorry.
10, if it's ultra processed like our meal kits we've been talking about today, it's gonna contain higher levels of all that stuff that slowly takes a toll on our health, especially for kids.
And the thing is, it's different from that in Singapore, because Singapore there's something called kopitiam, a coffee shop. It's not a shop just for coffee. It's like a how to say, several different stores under the same roof. It can be like 10 different stores or 20 different stores. Westerns next to Chinese, next to halal, next to noodles, next to rice, next to westerns, next to porridge, next to Japanese, next to Korean, all side by side, literally next door. Literally, like you take like a few centimeters away, the kind of things. 1 brick away, the kind of things. They do not have that. And even if they do, it's very rare. So, different cultures involved. Yeah.
Man, we've really let kids down, haven't we? And I'm not just talking about how Lunchables, Lunchly, and kits like it are ultra-processed, filled with sodium and fat, with too few calories and too much lead, because that's true of just about all the food we give kids these days. Although Lunchly might be at the tippity top of foods not to give them. But I'm not here to be an enemy of processed food. This food is delicious, but I'm also an adult. I have all the knowledge to make the best or worst choices about what to put in my body. But kids are impressionable in more ways than just repeating swear swear words. Not only do healthy meals give their bodies the nutrients they need to grow up big and strong, but it also teaches them healthier habits and develops a palate not geared towards just salt and fat. So can't we just bring more healthy food into our kids' cafeterias and lunchboxes? It's not always so simple. I mean, let's take a look at just in-school lunches. School cafeterias have so many competing forces that it makes it so hard to make lunchtime even possible, let alone healthy. Schools have to feed hundreds or even thousands of kids lunch and oftentimes breakfast every single day. So time.
And the thing is, the existing rules and laws and regulations in place makes it difficult to implement changes, to implement growth, development. Like the laws that were set by people that already passed away now, or like from decades ago, are still here and just haunting. And people who want to change it are facing challenges. So it's a double-edged sword. It's a very double-edged sword that is leaning towards the negative side. Whereas, from my experience in Singapore, in our canteen, we have different stores. Maybe Monday I will choose Japanese. I will be eating teriyaki rice. My friends will be eating fried rice. My friend will be eating fried chicken. Alright, we're just eating in the same canteen, different foods involved. There are literally hundreds of different variations. Let's say there are 6 stores. For example, 6 stores, okay? Each stores give you 10, 20 options. Ta-da! 100 options there. 100 different options there. Hey.
Is at a premium. Also, here in the US, the amount of money the federal government gives to schools to help feed kids is comically small. After accounting for labor and equipment costs, the average school has just $1.25 per meal to feed kids. Yeah, try making a quick and healthy meal for thousands of kids on that sort of budget. It's damn near impossible.
Yeah.
And of course, the toughest critics of all are kids. You can lay out all the healthy food you want, but if kids don't eat it, it's wasted food and money. All of this also applies to our kids who are bringing Lunchables or things like that to school. Time, cost, and personal preference can lead to lunches that are tasty but lack what kids really need. And federal regulators.
Oh, fun. There was a documentary on YouTube. There's several different documentaries on YouTube in which those restaurants, high-end, luxurious, elite chef say something, try to do their part to provide for schools in USA, United States of America. It's like, hey, they should be eating better food. And those chefs try to talk to those teachers, those students. It's like, hey, do you want this? Of course I want this, to the principals. But do you know who is the most opposing to the chefs? To those elite chefs? The common chefs. One professional chef from the elite restaurants versus 100, 1,000, a billion. Okay, not a billion, hundreds of thousands of common chefs. They have to prepare food for the children's. They are the one that is living it hard. They want to provide solutions. They want to provide improvements, but they are not allowed to because of the limitations. $1 and a few cents. Do you really think that those multi-millionaire chefs understand it? They don't.
Two, have to balance all of these competing interests and priorities while continuing to enforce healthier standards on child lunches, while also hearing the legitimate concerns from kids, schools, and food manufacturers. So, is that it? Are kids just doomed to be stuck with subpar food that sets themselves up with bad food habits? Not necessarily, because despite all the struggles, those standards do continue to improve. The USDA's National School Lunch Program, the same program that allowed Lunchables pizza to be a vegetable, continues to update its standards to try and be healthier and healthier. Recently, they updated the guidelines for how much sodium can be in school lunches by around 10%. It's not as much as the USDA originally wanted to slash it by, but progress is progress. The NSLP is also phasing in limits on added sugars, limits on sugar.
I agree. It's small, it's tiny, it's little, but progress is progress. Let's say if you progress 1% this year, it's not a lot. In a grand scheme of things, it's not a lot. But give you a few decades, 2 decades later, it'll be 20% improvements. Now that is quite significant. 3 decades later, that means one whole entire generation. That means their children's, alright? They'll say that, oh, there's a 30% improvement from back in the days, but there's still more to improve. So it's small, it's tiny, but there's change, there's improvements. Yeah.
Cereals and yogurts, as well as standards for what nutrients milk substitutes need to have to be considered healthy. All things I'd consider a step in the right direction. And there's a way for you to make a difference. Because you know whose standards are as high as ever? Ours. The general public knows way more about nutrition than we ever have before, and there are a lot of things in place, like the nutrition facts label, that give us the tools to make smarter decisions about not just our food, but our kids as well. We talked about this bit when we did the Deadly Burger episode, but just looking at the nutrition facts label percent of your daily value can tell you a lot about whether a particular item is nutritious or not. Less than 5% of something's daily value is considered low, and over 20% is considered high. That right there can already be a quick and easy way to know, oh, this Lunchly might be too high in sodium or fat or mold for what I or my very hypothetical child need. And if you're
But have you taken in consideration of their situation? This item, this Lunchable items, this particular item might not be the best for my child in terms of nutrition, but I'm still going to feed the child because alternative is going to cost 2 times more, 3 times more. The alternative is something that I, as parents, as a guardian for the child, is unable to afford. Then you're going to put the blame onto me? It's like, serious? Society needs children, and my society needs children in this depopulation era, and I'm providing kids. I'm doing my part to save humanity, and I'm being blamed for not taking care of, not giving the best nutrition for my child. My child is receiving nutrition, not the best, but at least he's alive. She is alive. It's the best of my capabilities, and you're trying to blame me for it? It sucks. For parents, the common parents, not the elite parents, not the luxurious parents, not the top 1% parents, but the bottom few parents, the standard middle class, the bottom class. Those people, there's the vast majority of people. That's one of the reasons why couples do not want to have children. The responsibility of taking children is different from taking the responsibility of taking children back days. If I fail to provide a tasty meal back in the days, the child will still eat it. Because there's no alternative. My cooking bad, my cooking good, my wife cooking bad, my wife cooking good is their mother's food. They have to eat it. Now, if my wife cooking is bad, I have to step up. If my cooking is bad, my wife has to step up. If both of our food is bad, there's always delivery. There's always 24 hours restaurants. And those are going to cost more and more and more. For most people, they can't afford that amount of money. So, yeah, they have to prioritize water bills, electrical bills, a roof above their heads. These are things that the top 1% do not take into consideration. A roof above our head. I don't think of that. I just call someone else, give them a few $100,000, give them a few $100, a few $1,000, and they fix it. They do not have that extra $100, and they do not have the extra $1,000. The vast majority of individuals do not have that.
Looking for quick and healthy alternatives to these kind of meal kits, they do exist, just at a cost. Not a sponsor, but one company called Little Spoon offers what they call lunchers. Essentially the same idea as Lunchables delivered straight to your door, but without a lot of the baggage we talked about today. While still low in calories, their pizza contains around a third less saturated fat and about half as much sodium. And as much as I love a Lunchables pizza, this image of Lunchers pizza looks way more appetizing. Of course, all that goodness comes at a cost to your wallet. A big one. Little Spoon Luncher starts at around $7.29 per meal. Compare that to Lunchables at a much more reasonable $187.
And for the regular individuals, the regular folks, the majority of the folks out there, majority of normal civilians, we are unable to afford a more expensive product that is quote unquote more nutritious.
don't need to give an arm and a leg to try and create healthy meals. If time is no issue, then creating your own meal kits at home, perfectly dialed to what you or your kid need, can be not only a fun way to keep up that nutritional game, but it can also teach fun meal prepping and health habits to your children that will stick with them longer than a cracker stacker. And speaking of which, what's the final ruling here on the healthiness of our favorite lunch treat? Are Lunchables, Lunchly, and other meal kits a disgusting product that should be removed from store shelves and never eaten again by mortals? Some of them. Would I recommend people, or especially children, eat Lunchables or Lunchly every day? God, no. But that's okay. Sometimes time or taste supersedes making the most optimal choice. Instead, it's about being as informed as possible so that you can make small changes that ultimately make you lunch able to improve yours or your kid's health. But
Yeah, it's a good outro. It's like sometimes we are unable to make the most optimum choice. We are unable to choose the most. Okay, sorry, I'm done. Sometimes we are unable to make the best choice, but we can try to shift towards the most optimum choice. But we need to stay informed no matter what. You are informed that this food is better, but I'm going to choose that food because this food is more affordable. I'm informed, but bobian have to suck it up. And we look forward to a day in which, when we grow up, from kids to become adults, our own offspring do not have to suffer the same way that we did. Those unreasonable suffering, those reasonable suffering, they need to go through so that they can develop as people, as proper characters. But those unreasonable, illogical suffering that we been through, we should not pass it on to the next generation. That's a good point to make. Thank you so much. Thank you.
hey, that's just a theory. A food theory. Bon appetit. And did you know that chicken noodle is not the thing you need when you're sick from school? Slurp that video on screen to watch me dissect why mom's miracle cure was one big lie. And as always, I'll see you next week.
Well, thank you so much. I hope you find this video quite interesting to watch, and yeah, thank you. But hey, that's just a theory. A food theory. Bon appetit. Oh. And hope to see you in the next video. Thank you so much. Subscribe. Thank you. Okay, I got to be honest with you, I'm so sorry. This is a 36-minute video, even though the original video is only 90 minutes. So I'm so sorry for my long commentary. Most people will probably not watch this video because it's like more than half an hour. So if you do watch this video, thank you. Touch my heart. Thank you so much. And comment down below. I've watched more than 30%. I've watched to the end of the video. Comment something. Popsicle. Just comment down in the comment section down below. Popsicle. Thank you.